Hello again, and thank you for being here. If you're a returning visitor, thank you for coming back after that hiatus. And if you're new here, my name is Katie, and this is where I talk about what I've been making. Specifically, this video, I'm mainly going to focus on my Make 9 project of last year and what I want to do this year with that. Because it has been a while, I want to make this as painless as possible for me and for you. So I'm going to try to just keep this very contained, and hopefully this will be kind of a smooth transition back into video making. So my Make 9 2022 was lofty to say the least, but a lot of it was aspirational, something that I just wanted to have in my wardrobe and some good ideas to take throughout the year. I wasn't necessarily taking it as a rule book or something that I was going to be disappointed in myself if I didn't accomplish. And even though I didn't accomplish very much of it, I am really happy with what I finished. I'm making a lot of big strides in my knitting to make things that are actually wearable, which is more than I can say about my previous few years of knitting, where everything took multiple times and a lot of ripping back and a lot of frogging and starting from scratch or just moving on to a different project. I was so much more intentional this last year, and I'm continuing to take my time and try to be a better knitter and a better maker in general. So first on my list last year was my Caledonia coat by Christel Seyfarth, and this is going to be knitted in the yarn that came with the kit for this pattern. So this was one that I was carrying over from the year before that because I'd only gotten a little bit done on it. I knew it was going to take a long time. It was very daunting for me. It's a coat knit in fingering weight with toothy yarn, the first that I'd kind of used of that. Now that I've gotten used to it, it is a much faster process. But that being said, it still took me a while to really find my groove with this one. So do not have it finished, but I made a lot of progress on it. I believe that the last time I filmed, I'd only just really broke ground with the new colorways, which is this beautiful dusty blue and sand. And now I am up into yoke territory, which is so exciting. I can't wait to see this finished. But I have separated for arms. There are still a lot of new techniques that I've never done before. I knew that it was going to be interesting having to do a full colorway cardigan. I know I'm going to have to steek. That doesn't scare me too badly because I've done that once before. And then something else that I've never done before, which are armhole steeks. So I'm not sure how this is going to play into things. I should probably make a better habit of reading through the entire pattern before, but it's just kind of a fun little mystery for me right now. So I'm going to see how I will tackle that when the time comes. Like the rest of this thing, I've just taken it very slow. If there's something I don't know or I don't understand, I don't guess and just try to wing it like old Katie would have done. There are no glaring mistakes that I'm aware of yet. I've now had a tonal shift where we've kind of swapped the color work chart colors, and I have not messed that up. So yeah, this is a groundbreaking project for me, and I know that if I continue to do this with as much care as I've been taking, that this will be something really special. One thing I am kind of worried about is my tension. My tension is all over the place. You can tell when I've had some kind of ups and downs in my stress because I will have some very inconsistent tension, and that has blocked out before. And I'm not sure how well it will come across, but there's definitely a lot of puckering and just kind of bumps. I have been vigilant with carrying floats, so I make sure that I knit 4 stitches at the most before carrying my floats, so that I didn't do that down here on the first part of this band, and you can tell it's a lot more puckered. I wasn't too worried about it because that's going to be flipped under, and I did do a lot better job of carrying my floats. I don't know how much of a difference that is going to make at the end, but this, just to be safe, like I said, I'm spending way too much time on this thing to kind of cut corners and try to get it done really quickly. So yeah, that's the progress on my Caledonia coat, and I'm just still loving it. Hopefully this year will be the year for this one. Second on my list was the Cumulus blouse by Petiteknit. This is a really nice mohair knit. I just love how it looks layered over t-shirts and sweaters. I've seen some really cute inspiration online layering this and using a lot of fun colors with the mohair. It just looks like a really fun, easy kind of wear. While I did already buy the yarn to do this, I was going to make mine in black, and I actually bought a fingering weight yarn to pair with it in case it wasn't going to be thick enough and you would, see too many layers underneath. But I decided to go a different route with that yarn and make something a little more basic first. And now that I'm leaving that kind of open, I do see the Cumulus blouse making an appearance, spoiler alert, very soon, and I think I'll have more fun with that than I was initially going to have. Number 3 on my list was my Nature's cardigan, which I am wearing today. This, I think, might have been my first Make 9 completed. This is by Ozetta Knitwear, and I made this out of Cascade 220, which has just become a big go-to yarn for me if I need something in an Aran or worsted weight. I really enjoy this one. The construction is a bit weird. I think the thing that I struggle with the most is very plain button bands. There is no ribbing. You don't pick up any stitches for it. You just make them straight onto the fabric. And because of that, you do have kind of rolling, but when I saw the pattern, I really liked how it looked buttoned up as well. I liked kind of the big collar, but when I button them, not the best look. I could probably fix that with just adding another button, but it's also something that I'm not that upset about. I do plan on making this one again, probably a more cropped version and a more neutral color, but I have to say that I love this color, and it was just a really fun construction to put together, and I would like to kind of build on this, maybe use it to accomplish a look that I was actually going for now that I have a better idea of how this kind of knits up. Next up was the Sawyer. This was a Brooklyn tweed pattern, I believe, and I was going to knit this one for my husband, but I did not get around to it. My knitting became a little more sporadic throughout the year, and this just kind of took a back seat and, to be honest, was kind of forgotten. So I did make some other projects for him this year, but the knitting one is still one that I need to get to one of these days. Number 5 was a scarf or a shawl. This was another one that I did complete. I chose to do the Yara shawl by Natasha Hornby of Moonstruck Knits. This was my first shawl and my first mosaic knitting piece, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. I used colors based on the ones that she used in her green sample. They're not the exact same yarns or colors, but I wanted to also make one in these beautiful greens. So I used the Jameson of Shetland's Spindrift, and it's a fingering weight yarn. And I used a Pine Forest for the dark green, Fern for the lighter green, and then for the contrasting gold colors, I used Scotch Broom and Old Gold, which are the recommended colors from her pattern. Like I said, this was my first shawl, so this was a learning experience. It was also very fun to see how this came together because I had no idea how the construction of shawls worked, and it was very enlightening and very exciting to see it just all come together. I also love the cast-off edge, which are these adorable baubles. And I can definitely see myself making more shawls in the future. I will just have to figure out how to style them because that's going to be new. Number 6 is my Willa cardigan by Sari Nordlund. This was another project that I actually finished, and I am so proud of this thing. A lot of new techniques went into this one. These were my first baubles, a lot of first cabling techniques. So I knit this in the Fisherman's Wool by Lion Brand Yarns, and I just used the natural colorway. I love this color, but I do think that it has limited me for what I can wear it with because it can clash sometimes with white, unless you know how to style it, and I don't yet. And then I find that I just don't have a lot in my wardrobe that goes with this yet. So In some ways that's kind of a bummer, but it's also really exciting because I have ideas of especially some dresses that I want to make that I think would look very beautiful under this. And overall, I'm thrilled with how this turned out. I'd say my only disappointment was how I made the button band. I was just struggling with the instructions for that, and I think I missed a step or I did something wrong with the button bands, but I've tried to salvage them, and honestly, it's not that big of a deal because I am able to cover it up with buttons. It's not like people are studying the buttonholes on my sweater. It's not a big deal. So overall, I love this. It's another one that I'm not dying to knit again, but I do want in more colors. Yeah, that is the Willa cardigan. Number 7 was an Augustine's design, and I did not get around to any of this. It was one of the things that kind of went to the wayside, but it is still something that I want to do in the future. The favorites that I mentioned in my last Make 9 video are still my favorite of the designs. I think they're gorgeous designs. I just kind of have to have more in the future that I know I will be able to wear these designs to or with. Next up was a pattern reconstruction, and I don't believe I did this. Initially, I wanted to totally revamp one of my old pieces that I really liked but didn't like the fit or the shape or something about it. In my last video, I mentioned it was my Soldotna crop top. I couldn't decide whether I wanted to just a looser fit, maybe lengthen it a bit, make it a little more wearable for myself, or if I want to overhaul it, add sleeves, the whole nines. It was another one of those things that wasn't a top priority this year, but it is something that I want to get to because I love that top, and it kills me that it just sits on a shelf. Finally was a vest. I did not get to this, but that is something that I'm going to be carrying over into this next year, so I'm not going to linger on it for too long. Just say that I couldn't make up my mind with which vest to purchase. I was going to do the Holiday Slipover by Petiteknit. It's this really nice casual one that I believe it's in a bulky weight. I think you hold Aran weight yarns together, but that's kind of where it gave me pause because I find that bulky weight is just not great on me for my personal taste, especially since I want to do it in a lighter colorway. Sometimes it can be a bit... I've got to work some things out. I've made some bulky weight sweaters in the past, and there's something going on that's not great. It's either my gauge or it's just not something that I'm very comfortable with. So no to the Holiday Slipover, but I did make a decision that is carrying over into my Make 9 for this year. So we'll go ahead and just get into that. The first project I have for my Make 9 2023 is my Caledonia coat by Christel Seyfarth, and since I've already spoken on this one ad nauseum, we will go ahead and keep it moving. Next, I hope to do a self-drafted pattern of some sort. This could be in sewing or knitting or even cross-stitch. I want to really hone my skills this year and become a lot less dependent on commercial patterns and try to branch out and make something myself. Next up is my first and only cross-stitch pattern that I have on my Make 9 this year, and this is a sampler by Teresa Kogut called Hello Halloween. I was obsessed as soon as I saw this was part of the expo this year and knew that I wanted to make this my first big girl on linen sampler, and I can't wait to have this thing finished. So I mentioned that a vest might still be in my future, and that's my plan for the year. I finally settled on the September Slipover by Petiteknit. I just really love the way that this one looks and the way it hangs, and it is a brioche knit, so that is a new technique that I can also learn while I'm at it. And I plan on making this one in black. I'm going to be holding a fingering weight with a mohair, and I think it's just going to be really soft and gorgeous, and yeah, I already can't wait. Next up is a new kind of project. I wanted to implement sewing as well this year. I thought it would help to kind of shake things up a little bit, and sewing, although it can be just as stressful, if not more, than knitting for me personally, projects come together a lot quicker, and so these would be a lot easier to accomplish than, say, having a full make night of knitwear. So the pattern I want to use is the Cynthia shirt by VikiSews. This is just a really nice, oversized, relaxed fit button-down shirt, and I think this would just be really great to have as a layering piece, and I think will look great with my September slipover when I get that finished. Next up is another sewing pattern, the Zero Waist Gather Dress. This is by Birgitta Helmersson, and I have made one of these in the past, but I didn't love the fit. I don't feel very comfortable with the way that it drapes because there is so much fabric, so I want to make some edits to this one. One way that I'm going to do this is to take away some of the extra width in the gown, and also want to make a shorter version and maybe some options that are a little more wearable color-wise. But for the one that I plan on making first, I found this really beautiful royal blue fabric from fabricstore.com, and I plan on making a shorter version, maybe more of a top than a dress. Next up, I still have my Cumulus blouse on here because that's one that I still want to get to. I'm not sure if I will go ahead and make this in the black mohair that I was planning on this last year, but I do know that I hope to get this one made this year. I just think it's such a pretty pattern. Another thing that I thought would be productive to add is to finish a whip. I have a lot of projects that I need to buy more materials for, or that have just been sitting on a shelf, and I need to regain some of my motivation and keep going with them. A couple of those that I've mentioned recently are my Anna's cardigan by Petiteknit, as well as my sweater number 8 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I do think I have a couple of other ones hiding. I just need to go through some of my stuff and really get organized and try to make a plan and decide whether I'm going to continue these things and hopefully finish some of them up. Lastly, I have a cardigan on my list, specifically the April cardigan by Petiteknit. And after going through a lot of projects for inspiration, I've decided to make this in a really rich, dark chocolate brown, and I'm going to be holding mohair with it. And I think that this is just going to be really gorgeous as a top or a layering piece. And yeah, that's all I have for now. I hope to be a little more present this year and include you in some of my planning processes, and hopefully add a little more of my sewing and other projects into the videos this year. I hope that you are having a great year so far and that you have a lot of exciting plans. Please feel free to share any of your making plans with me down below, and hopefully I will see you very soon.